Imagine living in ancestral times, before glasses and optometry was invented. Your world was blurry, but you don't know that. I mean, how could you? The only thing you can see with clarity and in focus are those things in your immediate field of vision, the things right in front of you. Then, a portal appears, and a man from the future steps out and hands you a mysterious object, and he says, "Put these on, and you'll never see the world the same." You're hesitant for a second, but after all, you're a rugged Neanderthal, and this little object looks harmless. So you put the glasses on, and immediately, reality changes before your very eyes. Everything is sharp, nuanced, detailed. You can now see all of the beautiful intricacies of nature, the droplets of water on the leaves, the bark on the trunks of the trees, the vivid colors and textures of the berries, animals, flowers, the sky. And this not only makes your world vastly more beautiful and vivid, but it also allows you to see a whole new range of opportunities. It allows you to build more, to create more, to appreciate everything more. And this is non-binary thinking. It's a lens to view the world, an approach which calls for a radically open and flexible mind towards everything inside of reality. And this is an approach that I'm starting to believe is the key for a life of wealth. And not just financial wealth, but relational wealth, spiritual wealth, emotional wealth, physical wealth. I believe that non-binary thinking has the ability to make you into a sharper business person, a more loving and present partner and friend, a more innovative creative, a better salesperson and persuader, and most critically, it can unleash your ability to perform mental alchemy and transform yourself into whoever the fuck you want to be. Transform yourself into the person that you need to be to accomplish whatever it is you wish to accomplish. So seriously, and I am not exaggerating when I say this, if you keep a radically open mind to the things that I'm about to share with you in this video, and you go and you take action in the world with these principles in mind, I believe it will make you radically more effective in every single area of your life, and it'll also make you appreciate the world more, be more happy, be more fulfilled. So I've divided this video into 4 segments. The first segment will be explaining what I mean by non-binary thinking, and we'll be explaining this notion of polarity, which is inherent to nature. From there, we'll talk about the inescapability of self-bias and how deep-rooted our individual perception of reality affects us negatively. And then I'm going to give you some very practical tips to really apply these principles in your life and become a creative, like a true creator in your life. If you're new here, my name is Mikey, and I like to make videos that help you and me live a good life. To me, that means entrepreneurship in the digital renaissance. It also means building superhuman health through performance optimization, and most importantly, it means building a perception of reality that serves you and works for you rather than against you. It means developing this practice of mental alchemy, because I believe it is through the self-actualization process, through becoming the best that you can be, that you can then serve others, love others, give your fullest gift to the world, which I believe is our highest calling. So if you're into very high-level personal development, I hope my videos serve you, and I hope you consider subscribing. But without further ado, let's get into the video. So before we get into non-binary thinking and the principles to apply non-binary thinking that will hopefully be as life-changing for you as they have been for me, we need to understand this notion of polarity. Now, I want you to understand polarity as an organizing principle of reality itself. And we see this manifest in everything, from nature all the way to the mental states of man, and also ideologies, belief systems, etc. Dark and light, growth and decay, good, evil, pain and pleasure, healthy and unhealthy, conservative and liberal, religion and spirituality versus the atheist and science, masculine and feminine, capitalism, socialism. You get the point. But this is our default way to perceive reality, right? This is how most of us understand and see the world. It's black and white. It's polarized, binary. I also want you to understand that this is literally built into our biology. in order for our ancestors to survive back in ancestral times, being able to make decisions quickly was a evolutionary feature that was developed for survival, right? Being able to make these quick judgments, these enemy versus ally, dangerous versus safety. Yes, I can eat this food. No, I can't eat this food. Being able to make decisions like this conserved cognitive energy and thus was programmed into their survival mechanism. This served us, right? These are how we form these heuristics, these kind of mental shortcuts. But nowadays, let's be real, when's the last time you got chased down by a saber-toothed tiger? Most of the time, these mental heuristics, these biases to view the world in black and white actually are working against us. And I also want you to realize that no matter how much of a critical thinker you think you are, no matter how open-minded you think you are, self-bias is inescapable. What's cold for one person might be a pleasant, warm day for another. What's very painful for one person might be even pleasurable for another. What one person deems healthy might be seen as junk food for another. Maybe you grew up in a highly educated family and you went to university, you got a physics degree, and now you believe that science and materiality is the ultimate truth, right? For you, all of this spiritual woo-woo stuff sounds like nonsense. But for the person that grew up in Malaysia, surrounded by monks and by Buddhism, for them, they believe in oneness. They believe in spirituality. And for them, that's the absolute truth. Maybe you believe that in order to be financially wealthy, you have to be this entrepreneurial shark where the ends justify the means and you deceive people and you make all this money and it's evil. And to be that kind of person, you can't be a spiritual person. You can't be loving and present and in connection with God. Or maybe you believe that in order to be a very spiritual person, you have to renounce financial wealth altogether. It manifests in everything, from the little minute things all the way to political ideologies, to our metaphysical ideologies. Self-bias is inescapable, right? And realizing that is the first step to all of this. And I mean, some people dedicate their entire lives to these binary poles. They dedicate their entire careers to these binary positions. I mean, really think about how much cognitive energy is expended by the average person arguing about what is right and what is wrong, about this is good and this is evil, this is the best marketing strategy, no, this doesn't work anymore, people are arguing in the comments. Think about how much energy we expend arguing on binary positions, this political ideology versus this political ideology, etc., 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 keto diet versus the carnivore diet, vegans, no vegans. It manifests everywhere. But what I want you to realize, and what we often forget, is that these binary poles, these categories, these distinctions are a construct of human perception. And listen, I'm about to get very abstract and philosophical for the next segment of this video, so I'm going to zoom out before I zoom back in and then get very tangible and practical again. But stick with me, because if you can understand the abstract philosophical stuff, it will deeply impact you, and I think it will truly serve you. What I want you to realize is that over millennia, over the past centuries, spiritual teachers, philosophers, religions, all of them have disagreed on so many things. But one of the key principles that the majority of them agree on is this idea of oneness. It's this idea that we all came from a source, and thus we are a part of it, but it is a part of us, and therefore we are all intimately connected. Everything and everyone, it's all part of one thing, made of the same substance. And thus our highest calling is to live in accordance with nature, to live in balance, in harmony, to do good to others, to do good to ourselves, right? This is why I make this the intro of every single one of my videos, to express your own unique gift in order to serve others. That is our highest calling. So now what I want you to understand is that these differences, these binary poles, they're really the same thing. The difference is merely in degree. They are not complete opposites. They are opposite ends of a spectrum, made of the same substance. They are not absolutes. The problem would have never arisen if we had been aware that it was just our way of looking at the world that had chopped it up into separate bits, things, events, causes, and effects. Make a spurious division of one process into two, forget that you have done it, then puzzle for centuries as to how to get the two together. Alan Watts. What he's pointing to here is the fundamental error in the human condition. It's this idea of separateness. We spend so much time and energy on this earth categorizing things, separating things, picking sides on these binary poles, forgetting that everything, everyone, we're all connected. We all came from the same source. We're all made of the same raw material, if you will. Think about it this way. When you're in a car and you're tuning the thermostat because the person beside you says that it's too cold, you don't just crank the heat all the way, right? No, you would ask them, what temperature do you want it to? What degree, right? There is no number that says warm or heat. There is no absolute heat. There is no absolute cold. At what point does heat begin? At what point does cold begin? The difference is in degree. And this is the same for almost everything. All of those binary poles that I described earlier in nature, as well as ideologies, identities, self-beliefs, they're not absolutes. They are opposite but complementary sides of a spectrum. Right? What I want you to understand is that in the eyes of the source, in the eyes of God, they are the same. They are opposite sides of a spectrum. They're not absolutes. Now you might be thinking, well, Mikey, but what about the murderer? Right? Surely if someone goes around killing a bunch of people, that's absolutely evil. Right? No. That's bias as well. Now, don't get me wrong, that's a good bias to have, and I'll explain further in a second, but first let me explain why that's a bias. The bias comes from the fact that we're human, and we're biased towards survival. We're biased to avoid pain. We're biased to avoid death. Why are we biased to avoid death? I mean, have you ever experienced death? You don't know what it's like. Why are you biased against death? The Christians say it's heaven, the Hindus say it's reincarnation. Both of those don't sound too bad. You just don't know what death is like. So you're biased towards the unknown. That's another bias. Nonetheless, if you remember what I said earlier, the absolute truth is to live in accordance with nature, to act in a way which brings balance, love, and harmony to all. Therefore, to harm someone else, to do something that is deceitful to someone else, to do something that is harmful to someone else, would be anti-nature, anti-God, anti-self. By you hurting someone else, you're ultimately hurting yourself. And that is the absolute truth, to live in accordance with nature, as the Stoics said. Because realize that if everything was relative, if there was no binary absolute truths, then that in itself is a binary position. Right? Now, if this isn't clicking with you, and this God and source thing isn't registering with you, I'll give you an example using science. Right? Let's say you have a good kid, right? This is a straight A student. He is kind and respectful to his teachers, to his parents. He is artistic and athletic and all of those things that good kids do. And then on the other side, you have a bad kid, right? This is the kind of kid that is disrespectful. He doesn't care about school. He's a bully. He's beating other kids up. He's the kind of kid that is going in the backyard, killing animals, and then dismembering them for fun. Maybe he gets into drugs really early. It's objectively a bad child. If you take both of these children and you take them to the top of a 1,000-foot skyscraper and they both jump, what happens? Invariably, they both die, right? Gravity does not care. The laws of physics do not care. In the laws of nature, in the laws of the universe, in the laws of physics, for gravity, both of these things are the same. The good and the bad kid are seen as equal. And that is the kind of point that I'm trying to make with, in the eyes of God, these binary poles, this good and evil, yes, they exist, but they are also opposite but complementary sides. You cannot have evil without good. You cannot have dark without light. And this is an idea that resonates through all sorts of different philosophies, right? In Taoist philosophy, you have this concept of the yin and the yang, which explains that everything in the universe consists of two forces that are opposite but complementary. These forces are not static or absolute. They are dynamic and constantly influencing each other. In the second chapter of an English translation of the Tao Te Ching, it says this: being and non-being engender each other. Difficult and easy complement each other. Long and short define each other. High and low play off each other. Sound and voice harmonize each other. Front and back follow each other. In Hermetic teachings, it says this: everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but half-truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. I mean, think about how crazy that is. That these two drastically different philosophies from two completely different regions of the world that are separated by centuries, right? And these wise men and spiritual teachers came to the same conclusion, that there's polarity inherent to the universe, but these opposite forces are part of the same thing. They're opposite but complementary, part of a spectrum, right? In the Bible, Jesus said, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. But I mean, why? Why would you love those that hate you? Why would you bless those that curse you? That doesn't make any sense, at least not in a logical way. And the reason why is because we're all connected. Reality, consciousness, it's all one thing. And listen, I know we just got very abstract and philosophical here, right? So if you've made it this far into the video and you haven't clicked off yet, first of all, thank you. But second of all, I'm really excited for you. Because if you really understand this and you apply the things that I'm about to share with you in the upcoming sections of this video, then this is where it starts to get really beautiful, where this can really make an impact in your life. Because if you understand that these binary poles are not absolutes, but just two sides, two complementary sides of a spectrum, and you realize that in the eyes of the source, they are the same, they're equal, then you realize that our calling is to love everything. Our calling is to fall in love with consciousness itself, right? Everyone, everything, every situation, every circumstance, it's appreciating, loving everything. It is treating that crackhead on the bus that seems kind of aggressive, it is treating them with the same amount of love and respect and empathy as you would your partner, your mother, your mentor. It is being able to live in joy and presence and gratitude regardless of whether you're living in a hut in the mud with ants crawling beside your bed, or if you're living in a palace with 3 Bugattis in your backyard. It means to be genuinely open, understanding, conscious to people who have different viewpoints, to people who have different ideologies. It is to be open, loving, conscious. It is to have the humility to recognize that you are deeply afflicted by self-bias, just as they are. It's to recognize, to quote Socrates again, that all I know is that I know nothing. And I recognize that what I'm saying is not easy. I'm well aware. And by no means am I saying that I'm this enlightened individual, that I've achieved that fully. But I do believe that this is our highest calling. And therefore, it's what we should strive for. Why would you demand anything less than that? Right? I don't know about you, but I don't want to live the kind of life where I'm not demanding the best of myself, where I'm not seeking the highest truth. To me, that sounds like a life of mediocrity. As Socrates said, an unexamined life is not worth living. Let's get into the practical steps of this video, because I promised I would bring this back down to earth, and I promise you that I would share with you some principles to apply this and make it so that you can create a beautiful life. Now, the first step is developing reflection in action. Now, this is what psychologists call metacognition, is the ability to think about your own thoughts. And in simple terms, the easiest way that I can explain this is to remain awake, to remain conscious, to remain aware at all moments of your life. And one of the big ways that this can manifest is emotional awareness, right? So imagine that you get into a heated argument, maybe with your boyfriend or girlfriend, or maybe it's with a family member, your brother, your parents. Maybe your boss said something to you at work that really triggered you. I want you to recognize this emotional charge that is within you and really question it, right? It's asking yourself, why do I feel this way? Why did I react in this emotionally charged way? And what you'll find most of the time, if you truly ask yourself those questions, is that you've taken it as an attack to your ego. What's truly happened is that you are so deeply attached to a binary position, to whether it's an idea, a belief, an identity. You are so attached to something, and your ego is identified with it. The false self is identified with that thing. Therefore, when someone's viewpoint or argument goes against that thing, you take it as a personal attack. You take it as a threat to your own survival, when in reality it was never that at all. It was just a disagreement. So, emotional awareness is a huge part of this. And it's so easy to get caught in these emotional flurries of the world around us. If you're not conscious, aware, and awake at all times, it's very easy for the pendulum swing of life to whip you around. It's very easy to get lost in your tasks and duties and obligations and drama, politics, social status games, all of this petty human bullshit that is in our constant awareness at all times. It's very easy to get caught in that. It's very easy to identify with a binary position and let your ego identify with that thing. Therefore, anything that goes against it is like triggering to you. So our call is to be awake, to be conscious, to be aware. Is, like I said earlier, to love everything, to embrace everything, to just be open. It's again having the humility to recognize how deeply self-bias affects you, just as it affects them, and therefore remain open, remain loving, present. Now, a tangible way to do this, which I've mentioned in many of my videos, but I'll mention it again, is developing a meditation practice. Something that you do every single day with intention that brings you into the present moment. And what modality you choose, honestly, is beyond me. It could be prayer for you, it could be meditation, breath work, journaling, Wim Hof breathing. You need to develop this ability to bring your awareness inward every single day. Because when you do that, you're able to create that separation between the ego, what you think is yourself, this incessant stream of thoughts, and your real self, right? It's realizing that you're awareness, you're not your thoughts. This is something that Eckhart Tolle talks about in a bunch of his books, like The Power of Now and A New Earth. And I also talked about it in depth in my video that I made on meditation, if you want to go check that out. And the second part to all of this is mental alchemy. And this is the secret sauce. So if you've made it this far into the video, congratulations. Because this is the secret. This is what everyone who is extremely successful, creative, and innovative in any area of life uses in order to succeed and live a beautiful life, whether they're conscious that this is what they're doing or not. So what do I mean by mental alchemy? Alchemy of the mind is the process by which you recognize that you do not achieve goals, you do not achieve outcomes. You achieve characters. You achieve a new sense of self. It is through the attainment of that new sense of self, through the development of that new character, that new identity, that your goal naturally manifests as a result. And therefore, you shouldn't strive for goals. You shouldn't strive for outcomes. You should strive to become he or she who can. So when I say mental alchemy, what I'm really referring to is applying this process of non-binary thinking, of depolarization, to yourself, to your identity, to your beliefs, to your character traits. It is deconstructing your own identity, your own paradigm to view the world, and rebuilding it into one that serves you and works for you rather than against you. That is the alchemy of self, right? Because you need to be non-binary, you need to be malleable, flexible in order to succeed in any area of life. I mean, think about this. How many times have you heard people say something along the lines of, well, if I'm extremely good, if I'm extremely talented or technically gifted, then I don't have to tell people about how good I am. My work will show for itself. Why not do both? Why not be about it, be technically gifted, and learn how to communicate, learn how to articulate yourself so people can actually be aware of how good you are. If you're an entrepreneur and you've built an incredible product that can truly change people's lives, but you don't market it, but you don't tell people about how good your product is, then it won't change anyone's lives. Right? If you did some Myers-Briggs test, some BuzzFeed quiz that told you you're an introvert, and now you have this deep-rooted belief that, oh, I'm an introvert, therefore I don't do well in social groups, and oh, I don't know, I just can't do sales because I'm introverted, and I can't really connect with people like that so well. But you're an entrepreneur and you want to grow in business, guess what? You have to be malleable. You have to be non-binary about this. You need the ability to mold your character, to adapt it to the situation at hand. If you're so rigid in your belief that, oh, I'm an introvert, or I am a INFTP, or I'm this, I'm that, I'm a Capricorn, whatever, and therefore I can't do this, I can't do that, you just won't win. Period. Oh, I'm a nice guy, and I've built a good career, I'm sure I'm gonna find a good woman that's gonna love me. So I don't need to learn psychology or persuasion or game and do all these gimmicky tactics and stuff. I don't need to learn how to do skincare or dress better. That's all trying too hard. I'm a good man and I have a good career. I'm going to find a good woman. Why not do both? Why not be a good man and build a good career and learn psychology and study dating, study love, study relationships, study attraction, and do skincare, and build a good body? Why not do everything? Why not? Or maybe it's a business limiting belief. If you're creating content or you're an entrepreneur, you might have heard, oh, in order to grow my business, I need quality content. And because I post high quality content, I can't post that often, right? I must take months to produce this beautiful art piece. Or maybe you're on the opposite side of the spectrum. Maybe you're, oh, if I want to grow on social media, I have to post every single day, just quantity. I need to give the people the content. Or if I want to get clients and I need to do outreach, I only do super high quality personalized outreach. I only send 5 emails or do a couple of calls because it's quality. Or maybe I only send quantity. I only send 300 emails, or I only do super high quantity outreach. Why not do both? You have to be non-binary about these things. You have to be able to kind of play Aikido with the universe, mold yourself into these different characters, challenge your own beliefs, your own ideologies, your own perceptions of reality in order to craft the ones that work for you. That's how this stuff works. And that's how every single successful person ever in every field has done it. Think about Steve Jobs. When Steve Jobs created the iPhone and the iMac, it was at a time when technology was very efficient and functional and technical, but it was extremely slow. It was ugly as hell. Right? Steve Jobs comes along and says, why can't we have something that's incredibly effective, but it's also user-friendly and it has beautiful design? And thus, the iMac, the iPhone was born, and Apple, boom, it's now one of the biggest companies in the world, right? In sports, back in the day, in the NBA, the big men, the centers, the 7-foot tall people were always like really big and really strong, and they dominated inside the paint, but they were unathletic and they couldn't really shoot. Then come the 2010s or so, and then come the Dirk Nowitzkis, the Kevin Garnett's, the Nikola Jokic, all these big men that are actually athletic and they know how to shoot. And what happens? They dominated. Right? It's non-binary thinking. It's this ability to recognize that these poles are not absolute. You can play within them. You can choose to mold your reality in a way that serves you, as long as you're living in accordance with nature and serving others. So maybe I'll make a more in-depth video of mental alchemy at some point. If you want to see another video on that, let me know. I'd be happy to make more videos on that. But hopefully that gives you some insights and that inspires you to think about this critically. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you next week. Peace.